There is a kind of peace that only exists before the world wakes up, before the phones buzz, before the news starts, before anyone needs anything from you. It is the peace of a room filled with soft light and silence. And maybe, if you have reached a certain point in your life, you know this peace very well. Maybe you have sat in it. Maybe you have let it wash over you like warm water. Or maybe you have sat in that same silence and felt something heavier instead. This is a story about that silence, about what happens in the quiet spaces of a life, about the thoughts that fill those spaces and how they shape almost everything. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way anyone else would notice, but in a way that matters more than almost anything else. Take a breath. Slow down for a little while. There is no rush here, no lesson to memorize, no action plan to follow. Just a quiet conversation, something to sit with, and maybe something you have already felt, but never quite put into words. A long time ago, nearly 2,000 years ago, there lived a man in the ancient Roman world. His name was Marcus Aurelius. Now, you might have heard that name before. He was an emperor, one of the most powerful men in the world at that time. But here's the thing most people do not know about him. He was not a happy man, not in the way we usually think of happiness. He carried enormous weight, the weight of an empire, the weight of war, the weight of watching people he loved grow old and pass away. He lost children. He lost friends. He faced illness, betrayal, and doubt. And yet, he kept going. Not because he was tough in the way movies show tough men, but because he found something quiet and steady inside himself, something most of us are still looking for. He kept a private journal, not for the world, not to impress anyone, not to teach a lesson. He wrote it for himself. Late at night or early in the morning, in the margins of his own life. He wrote down the things he was trying to remember, the truths he kept forgetting, the reminders he needed to hear again and again. And one of the things he wrote, one of the lines that has survived nearly 2,000 years, was this: "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Listen to that again, slowly. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Not your circumstances, not your bank account, not whether the world treated you fairly. Your thoughts. Now, that might sound simple. It might even sound a little frustrating, because life has not always been simple, has it? But Marcus was not saying that life is easy. He was not saying that bad things do not happen. He was saying something quieter than that, something harder to hear, but gentler when you do. He was saying that the way you think about your life, the way you carry it inside your mind, that is where happiness lives, or does not live. Not out there, in here. And that is where this conversation begins. When you were younger, let us say in your 20s or 30s, your thoughts moved fast. They were about the future, about what was coming next, about what you needed to do, who you needed to become, what you needed to prove. The mind was busy, restless, always leaning forward. And that was okay. That was the season of life you were in. But something shifts, does it not, as the years pass? Somewhere along the way, the future becomes shorter. The questions change. The mind stops leaning forward so much and starts looking back. And that is not a bad thing. That is not wrong. But it can become heavy if you are not careful. Because the thoughts that come in later life are different. They are quieter. They come uninvited. They arrive in the middle of ordinary moments, while you are washing a dish, or sitting on the porch, or lying in bed at night. And they carry weight. Think about what happens after a loss. Not just the grief in the first days or weeks, but the grief that settles in later, months or years after someone is gone. You are standing in the kitchen. It is an ordinary Tuesday, and a thought comes. I wish I had told her that. Or, he would have laughed at this. Or simply, I miss him. The thought arrives without warning, and for a moment, the whole room changes. The color drains out of it. The warmth leaves. Not because anything in the room changed, because something changed inside you. A thought. Just a single thought. And that thought, in that one quiet moment, shaped how you felt. It shaped the quality of that moment of your life. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He understood that we do not suffer because of what happens to us. We suffer because of what we think about what happens to us. The event passes, but the thought about the event, that can stay for years. Let us talk about something very specific, something that does not get discussed enough. Picture this. A man. Let us call him Robert. He is 63 years old. He retired 8 months ago. He worked for 31 years at the same company. He was good at his job. People respected him. And now, it is a Tuesday morning, 6 o'clock. His body wakes him up the way it always has, out of habit, like a clock that does not know how to stop. But there is no alarm, no meeting at 8, no email waiting for an answer. The house is quiet. His wife is still asleep. He gets up slowly, puts on the coffee, stands at the kitchen window. The light is just coming in. The yard is still and gray. And the thought comes, not loudly, not dramatically. It comes the way fog comes in the morning, so slowly you do not even notice it at first. Is this all there is now? That is the thought. Just that. 5 words. And in that moment, standing at the window with the coffee growing warm in his hands, something inside him sinks. Not because the morning is bad. The morning is fine. The coffee is good. The yard is peaceful. But the thought turned it into something else. It turned a quiet, ordinary morning into evidence that his life had somehow become less. And here is the important thing to understand. It was not the retirement that made him feel that way. It was the thought about the retirement. The retirement itself is just a change, a door closing on one part of life and another door opening somewhere else. But the thought, is this all there is now? That thought closed both doors. And if that thought comes every morning, if it becomes a habit, then every morning starts with a little weight on the chest. Not because life is heavy, because the thought made it heavy. Now let us move to a different moment, a different kind of quiet. A woman, let us call her Margaret. She is 67. She lost her husband 3 years ago. Her children live in other states. She sees them on holidays, sometimes on weekends. She is not lonely in the way people talk about loneliness. She has friends. She has things to do. She is not sad all the time. But there are moments. It is a Wednesday afternoon. She is at the grocery store. A regular trip, nothing special about it. She is walking down the cereal aisle. The fluorescent lights hum above her. There are dozens of boxes, bright colors, big letters, promises on the front. And she stops. Not because she cannot decide. She stops because something catches inside her. She remembers standing in this same aisle, or one just like it, 20 years ago. Her children were small. One of them would run ahead and grab something off the shelf, something with chocolate or marshmallows, and hold it up like a trophy. "Can we get this one, please?" And she would smile and say yes, and put it in the cart. She is standing there now, the cereal aisle, the humming lights, and the memory is so clear, so close, that for a moment it feels like it just happened. And then the thought comes. No one cares what cereal I buy now. It is a small thought, a quiet thought. No one around her would know she just thought it. But in that moment, standing between the Cheerios and the Raisin Bran, something in her chest tightens. A wave of something. Not quite sadness. Something deeper. Something lonelier. And she did not plan to feel that way. She did not go to the grocery store looking for grief. The thought found her. And for 30 seconds, maybe a minute, it changed the entire color of her afternoon. This is what Marcus Aurelius was talking about. Not the big moments, not the funerals or the diagnoses or the arguments. The small moments. The Tuesday mornings. The Wednesday afternoons. The ordinary, unremarkable minutes of a life. Those are the moments where happiness is actually built or quietly taken apart. There is one more place where this happens, and most people know it very well. The bed. At night. When everything is dark and the house is still. You have been lying there for an hour, maybe longer. The body is tired, truly tired. But the mind will not stop. It is replaying something, an old conversation, something you said 10 years ago that came out wrong. The look on someone's face when you said it. I should have apologized then. Why did I say that? They probably still remember. Or maybe it is not the past. Maybe it is the future. What if this pain gets worse? What if I cannot take care of myself? What will happen to me? The thoughts come one after another, like a line of cars on a highway that never ends, each one leading to the next, each one a little heavier than the one before. And you lie there, staring at the ceiling, watching the shadows from the streetlight on the wall, and you cannot stop it. This is one of the loneliest places a person can be. Not because you are alone, though you might be, but because the noise is happening inside your own head, and no one else can hear it. And no one can turn it off for you. Marcus Aurelius knew this place too. He wrote about it. He wrote about the way the mind loops and repeats and argues with itself. And he did not say, just think happy thoughts. He said something more honest than that. He said that we have a choice, not to stop every thought, but to notice when a thought has taken hold, to see it for what it is, and to gently let it pass. Not fight it, not argue with it, not try to solve it at 2 a.m. Just notice it, name it, and breathe. We will come back to that, because it matters more than it might seem right now. Here is something that most people do not realize about their own minds. Thoughts repeat, not once or twice, dozens of times a day, hundreds of times a week. The same thought coming back over and over, like a song stuck in your head, except this song is not a song. It is a feeling, a worry, a regret, a comparison. And most of the time, you do not even notice it is happening. Think about it. How many times a day do you think something like, I am not as healthy as I used to be? Or, everyone else seems to have it figured out? Or, I have wasted so much time. Maybe once, maybe twice. Maybe you thought one of those things this morning without even realizing it. But it is not just once. It is a pattern, a habit, a groove worn into the mind by years of repetition. And here is what is important to understand. When life becomes quieter, when the children have grown, when the career is over, when the days stretch out long and open, the mind does not slow down with it. The mind fills the silence. When you were younger, your thoughts were crowded out by doing, by activity, by the constant motion of a busy life. But now, the life has slowed, and the thoughts have room to breathe, room to expand, room to repeat. And that is why this matters more in later life, not less, because the thoughts have more space, more time, more silence to fill. And if those thoughts are heavy ones, if they are the ones about regret or loss or comparison, then the silence fills with weight. This is not a flaw in you. This is not something wrong with your mind. This is what minds do. They think. They repeat. They fill the quiet. The question is not whether this happens. The question is what you do when you notice it. Now, you may have heard advice like this before. Think positive. Look on the bright side. Count your blessings. And maybe that advice made you a little frustrated or a little tired, because when you are lying in bed at 2 a.m, replaying an old argument, telling yourself to think positive feels like someone handing you a Band-Aid when the wound is deep. It does not help. It might even make you feel worse, like there is something wrong with you for not being able to just flip a switch. So let us set that aside. Let us forget about positive thinking for a moment. What Marcus Aurelius was suggesting was not about forcing happiness. It was not about pretending everything is fine. It was about something much quieter. It was about noticing. Just noticing. The thought comes, you see it, you recognize it. There it is, that thought again. Not with judgment, not with frustration, just awareness. Like watching a cloud pass across the sky. You do not have to chase it. You do not have to fight it. You do not have to believe every word it says. You just see it. And that, simply that, begins to change things. Not overnight, not in a dramatic way, but slowly, quietly, the way a river changes the shape of a stone. Here is another piece of it, naming the thought. Not out loud necessarily, but inside, gently. That is worry. That is regret. That is loneliness. When you name a thought, when you give it a simple label, it loses a little bit of its power. It becomes something you can see instead of something that sees you. It becomes an object in the room instead of the whole room. And then you let it go. Not because you forced it away, but because you stopped feeding it. You stopped following it down the long hallway of what if and I should have and why did I? You stopped and you breathed and you let the thought drift past, like fog burning off in the morning sun. Let us talk about where this actually happens, in real life, in the ordinary hours, not on a meditation cushion, not in a retreat center somewhere far away. In your kitchen, on your porch, in the car, in the grocery store. The morning is a good place to start. Remember Robert, the man at the kitchen window with his coffee? What if, instead of letting the thought, "Is this all there is now?" take hold and spread like ink in water, what if he just noticed it? The thought comes. He sees it. There it is, that thought. And then he looks out the window again. Really looks. The light is coming in. The yard is quiet. The coffee is warm. Not because the morning changed, but because for one moment, just one, he chose to notice the morning instead of the thought about the morning. That is it. That is the whole thing. One moment, one breath, one small turn of attention. Or think about Margaret in the grocery store. The memory comes. The thought comes. No one cares what cereal I buy now. And she notices it. She names it, quietly, inside herself. That is loneliness. And then, gently, she lets it be there. She does not push it away. She does not cry. She does not pretend it is not true. She just holds it for a moment, like holding something fragile. And then she puts a box of cereal in the cart, and she moves on. Not because the loneliness disappeared, but because she did not let it become the whole story of her afternoon. These are not grand gestures. They are not transformations. They are small moments, quiet choices, the kind that no one else will ever see. but they are the moments where the quality of your thoughts is actually shaped. And according to Marcus Aurelius, that is where the happiness of your life is shaped too. Here is something that younger people do not always understand about getting older. There is a kind of freedom that comes with age, a quiet freedom, one that does not announce itself. When you were younger, so much of your thinking was about other people, what they thought of you, whether you were keeping up, whether you were enough. The mind was full of comparison, full of performance, full of trying to be something for someone else. But somewhere along the way, that starts to matter less. Not all at once, gradually, like a weight slowly lifting. You stop needing to impress. You stop needing to compete. You stop needing to prove. And in that space, that quiet, open space, something unexpected can grow. Peace. Not the peace of having everything figured out, but the peace of caring less about what other people think. The peace of choosing to be right or choosing to be at rest. And choosing rest. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this too. He wrote about how the wisest people he knew were not the ones who had the most. They were the ones who had let go of the most. Not their possessions, their need to be seen a certain way, their need to win every argument, their need to be the one who was right. And there is a great freedom in that. A freedom that only comes when you have lived long enough to see that being right does not always make you happy. But letting go sometimes does. This is one of the gifts of later life, one of the quiet ones that no one puts on a greeting card. The permission to stop performing, to stop proving, to simply be, and to let your thoughts follow that same quiet path. Let us return to the bed, to the night. Not to the restless night we talked about before, but to a different kind of night, a gentler one. The day is ending, the light is gone, the house is still, and you are lying down. Not to fight sleep, not to wrestle with the mind, just to end the day. What if, before the thoughts start their parade, you gave yourself one small gift, one thought, just one, that you chose on purpose? Not a grand thought, not a resolution or a plan. Something small, something true. I made it through today. Or, someone smiled at me this morning. Or, the light was beautiful this afternoon, and I saw it. Just one thing. One quiet, honest thought. Not to replace everything else, not to fix anything, just to plant one small seed of something gentle before the night takes over. Marcus Aurelius did this too. Every night in his journal, he would write down what he had noticed, what he had learned, what he was grateful for. Not in a grand way, but in a small, honest way. Not because it made everything perfect, but because it reminded him, again and again, that the quality of his thoughts was something he could tend. Like a garden, slowly, patiently, one day at a time. And you can do this too. Not perfectly, not every night, not in any way that anyone else would notice, but quietly, for yourself, the way Marcus did. Before we close, let us spend a few minutes on something practical. Not a program, not a regimen, just a few simple things that fit inside an ordinary day without changing it too much. The first one is morning stillness. Not meditation if that word feels uncomfortable, just stillness. A few minutes, before the coffee or with the coffee, before the phone, before the news. Just sitting, breathing, letting the mind do whatever it does without following it anywhere. If a thought comes, let it come. If it goes, let it go. You are not trying to empty your mind. You are just giving it a moment to settle, like letting muddy water sit in a glass until it clears on its own. The second one is one grateful thought. Not a list, not 5 things, not 10. One thing, small, specific, true, that you notice during the day. The warmth of sunlight on your hand. The taste of something you enjoyed. A bird outside the window. The sound of rain. Just one thing, and you let yourself notice it. Really notice it. For a few seconds. That is all. The third one is letting a thought pass without fixing it. This is the hardest one, and it takes practice. Real practice, over days and weeks. When a heavy thought comes, a worry, a regret, a comparison, your first instinct is to engage with it, to argue with it, to solve it, to push it away. But what if you just let it be there? Not agreeing with it, not believing it, not following it, just letting it exist in your mind the way a cloud exists in the sky. It will pass. They always do if you do not hold on to them. And the fourth one is ending the day gently. We already talked about this. One thought. One small, true, quiet thought before sleep. Not a summary of the day, not a judgment. Just one thing you noticed. One small gift you give yourself before the darkness comes. These are not magic. They are not a cure for anything. They are simply ways of paying attention to the quality of your own thoughts, the way Marcus Aurelius paid attention to his. Slowly, gently, without expecting anything in return. We began this conversation with a morning, a quiet room, soft light. And we talked about a man named Marcus Aurelius who lived 2,000 years ago and wrote words that still feel true today. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Let us sit with that one more time, now that we have walked through what it really means. It does not mean that you should never feel sad, or that grief is wrong, or that worry is a sign of weakness. It means something more generous than that. It means that in the small, quiet moments of your life, the mornings, the afternoons, the nights, you have more influence over how you feel than you might think. Not total control, not a magic switch, but influence. A gentle hand on the wheel. It means that happiness is not something you find at the end of a road. It is not waiting for you somewhere in the future. It is happening right now. in this moment, in the way you are thinking about this moment. And that is not a burden. That is not one more thing to do right. It is an invitation. An invitation to pay attention, to notice, to choose, gently when you can, the thoughts that carry you forward. Not perfectly, not every time, but often enough to matter. Marcus Aurelius did not get it right every day either. He wrote the same reminders to himself over and over because he kept forgetting, because the mind is restless, because life is hard. But he kept trying, every morning, every night, in the quiet spaces between one breath and the next. And that is enough. It is enough to try. It is enough to notice. It is enough to be kind to yourself when you forget. So here we are, at the end of this quiet conversation. You did not learn anything new today, really. You already knew that mornings can feel heavy, that nights can feel long, that a single thought can change the color of an entire afternoon. You already knew that. But maybe, just maybe, you heard it spoken out loud in a way that felt familiar, in a way that felt like someone understood. And maybe that is worth something. You have lived a long life. You have seen things. You have carried things. You have lost things. And you are still here. Still waking up in the morning. Still making coffee. Still watching the light come in. Still thinking. Still feeling. Still breathing. That is not a small thing. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Not on being perfect, not on having everything figured out. On the quiet, daily, imperfect practice of noticing what you think and choosing, when you can, thoughts that are a little gentler, a little quieter, a little more kind. To yourself, to the morning, to the life you are still living. Marcus Aurelius wrote his words nearly 2,000 years ago. And here you are, still reading them, still feeling them. Because some truths do not change with time. They just wait, quietly, patiently, until we are ready to hear them. Maybe today was one of those days. Take care of yourself tonight. And tomorrow morning, when the light comes in, try to notice it, just for a moment. That is enough.